following is a Comfortably Zoned Radio Network production.
I am back, and you are comfortably zoned with me, the Zig Zag Man, in Alameda, California. I'm right across the bay from San Francisco, across the moat from Oakland, and down by the lagoon, as Archie Bunker would say. Everything in Alameda is down by the lagoon. And it is my job, I took on this job of talking to some of the most interesting people on the planet. And today is no exception. I'd like to welcome to the airwaves for the first time one of the few comedians who work. That's the best way to put it. Comic actor who has worked for years, and I got to know his work early on with the committee in San Francisco, an improv group that impressed me when I was in my 20s. And here we are 50 years later, and I finally get to meet the man who makes it all possible, Larry Hankin. Welcome to the airwaves.
How you doing, Jig?
I was going to make that an extended introduction, but I couldn't think of much to say.
Great.
I'm doing well. I'm a little nervous. Your background has been incredible. Let's start with that committee.
Okay.
I remember seeing it when I was still in the Air Force. I was stationed at Travis, halfway between Sacramento and San Francisco, and I made a 50-some-odd mile trek into the city, and it impressed me to the point where I couldn't believe it. First of all, I kind of fell in love that night. Mimi Farina was a featured member of the committee. Joan Baez's sister. She was absolutely beautiful. And inside and out, as a matter of fact. And Richard Farina, her husband, was a member of the committee, as were you. Tell me how that all got started. What was the start of the committee?
Well, wow, that's, I guess, how it started. I don't know how it started. I was asked in. I was playing in Second City. I had stopped being a stand-up comedian. And, wow, wait a minute, there's something wrong with my, okay, well, anyway. I stopped being a stand-up comedian, and my manager at the time, I was opening for Woody Allen, as a matter of fact. So I was doing okay, and Miles Davis and stuff. But I was doing, I didn't know it at the time, but I was doing Lenny Bruce type of material, Richard Pryor type of stuff, George Carlin's kind of comedy. And I couldn't take the anger at that time. This is in the early 60s. I couldn't take the anger of the crowd. I mean, they were throwing stuff. I had been taken off the stage by the police, and it was just, I was a middle-class kid, so my manager said, why don't you join Second City? You got 5 people up on the stage with you. You know, you own the theater, so the police can have to leave you alone. So that's what I did. I went to auditioned in New York, and then they sent me to Chicago, where I met Alan Meyerson. One day I was hired, me and Jack Burns. He started Hee Haw. Me and Jack Burns were hired at the same time at Second City, and we were there for about 3 months working on the stage, and they had too many people in the company. They had, I think, like between 7 and 9 people, and the best, I don't know why, but it's 5 people is like the sweet spot of improv. Because I guess nobody would, if you have 9 people, they don't get enough stage time to keep them interested. So Paul Stills cut us last hired, first fired. So Jack and I were let go, and I just hung around. And one day, while I was hanging around the Second City, just hanging, Alan Meyerson walked in, or somebody came down and said, there's a guy out in a car wants to talk to you, me. So I said, outside? He says, yeah, he's parked out in front. He's just waiting there. So I went out, and it was Alan Meyerson in his clown car with everybody else who was in the committee that, well, even before what you saw. There's about 6 people in the car. It was a station wagon, and they had suitcases piled on top, and they had kids in the, I don't know, 2 kids in the car. It was crazy. So he said, hop in. We're going to San Francisco. We're going to open another improv theater there. And I said, hey, man, I'm not getting in that car. It was snowing. It was freezing. It was like midnight. So I said, no, if you really want me to go, you send me a plane ticket. I didn't even know who these people were. They had been fired a long time before me from Second City, Alan Meyerson and a couple of other people. So I went back I just stayed there in Chicago, sleeping on one of the guys' couches. And sure enough, a plane ticket came. So I flew to San Francisco, and there was this theater, and it was called the Committee, and I was a member of the original cast. There was like, I think, 5 of us. So that's how it started, and that's how I got into the Committee.
Wow. And did you know what it would lead to in terms of your career?
I had no idea about career or anything. I was just a kid. Well, I was in my late or middle 20s, actually. But I considered myself a kid at the time because I was totally naive. I didn't have any career or any idea about profession. I liked getting up on the stage and making people laugh. I did it in high school. I did it in college. And then that was my major was industrial design. And I really didn't want to go into it. I was going to work for, I don't know, a Chevy or Ford or somebody designing cars. I was going to design cars. But I didn't want to do that. So I didn't want to do anything. Frankly, I didn't want to do anything. The easiest thing, closest to not doing anything, was being a stand-up comedian. A stand-up comedian. So that's what I chose.
I did it myself in the 80s and 90s, and I absolutely agree with you. Once you do it and they pay you money for making people laugh, any amount of money kind of ruins your work ethic for life.
Well, I wasn't even getting paid. I was just, Monday night open mic nights was, to me, being a stand-up comedian. That was awful. I couldn't get a job. I mean, paying job. I was totally awful, and to this day, I do not know what kept me going back the next Monday night and getting on the stage. The only thing I can think of was I kept saying, well, I think I can do it better next week. And then it was in the Greenwich Village, so there was a lot of Monday nights, or sometimes there was a Tuesday night open mic. So I could work 3 or 4 nights a week for free, just doing open mic nights, And I slowly started to get better, and then I was getting really good. And then Woody Allen's manager came up to me after a coffee house show one night. He wasn't Woody Allen at the time. He was just another stand-up comedian who was working a nightclub about 2 doors down. Jack Rollins, and he said, hey, do you have any representation? I said, no. He said, how would you like some? I said, fine. And then he booked me into a nightclub, and then he had to buy me a tuxedo. It was really, I didn't know what was going on. I had no idea. And then I started to open for Woody, and he was pretty funny, but he wasn't this kind of vicious satire. Or cool satire. There's Lenny Bruce stuff. He wasn't doing Lenny Bruce stuff. He wasn't telling stories. He was telling odd paradigm jokes. So I really didn't listen to him. But I was opening for him. I was successful with his crowd, so that was okay. And I was getting paid by this time. By the way, when Woody started, he was pretty bad, too. And he would also go into the bathroom and throw up right before he'd go on the stage. That was Woody's M.O. It was just
Bill Russell would do that in basketball before.
I guess, yeah, he would just, would be getting ready to introduce him. Where's Woody? He's in the bathroom filling up. He'll be right out.
Right.
So that's and then finally I started touring. I toured with the Blues Project, with Lovin' Spoonful, but even still with the rock and roll crowd. No, that was great. The rock and roll crowds were great. But then I started opening for like Woody, the Kingston Trio, and just other acts that were just straight acts. And I was being booed off the stage. People would come at me with beer bottles in their hands, upside down.
Yeah, they're waiting for the opening act, and or they're waiting for the closing act. Yeah, you're the opening act. They're waiting for the music.
The Kingston Trio. They wanted the Kingston Trio. And they said, get the fuck off the stage, was how they expressed it. I would, one guy came up, how they had the dance floor, in nightclubs, they have the stage is about 5 inches above the dance floor. It's just a little riser. And the band plays there, or and then there's this dance floor, and then after the dance floor is all the tables. So I couldn't see past the dance floor. It was just black out there. And this guy comes out of get off the stage, get off the stage. And I'm talking about God or pot or I don't know what, or I'm saying fuck on the stage, whatever. And the guy, get off the stage, you want to hear the Kingston Trio. And I just kept going. And then so when I started talking about religion, he said, I don't want to hear about that. So, okay, I'll change the subject. So I changed the subject, and he was fine. Then I just when I got a couple of good laughs, I went back to religion. And then this guy, this bohunk of a guy, starts walking out of the darkness, walking across the dance floor with his beer bottle upside down. He said, get the fuck off the stage. And there's nobody around stopping him or anything, and it's snowing outside, so there's not even many people in this. So I just said, fine. I just said, I'm off, man. I'm not a fighter. Cool.
Rather than get the hell beat out of you, that's a good decision.
So I went over to the bar, and then this bartender comes over to me. He says, what are you doing here? I go, did you just see that guy came at me with a beer bottle, man? I'm not going to, where's the bouncer? He should be protecting me. The bartender says, I'm the bouncer, and you got 10 more minutes up there. And I said, I'm not going up there unless you stop that guy. He says, you get up on the stage, you're not getting paid. And I said, if you're not going to protect me, I'm not getting up on the stage. And he says, okay, you don't get paid. And I walked out. So that was the end of my nightclub appearances. I called my manager, and he said, call, join Second City. You're near Chicago. I think I was in Chicago. No, I was in Boston. He said, join Second City. Come back to New York, and they're playing down in the Village. Go audition. So I did, and I got in Second City, and they shipped me to St. Louis and then Chicago, and then, Alan said, we're going to San Francisco. So we were there for 10 years, a good 10 years, in San Francisco in the committee. I thought that was good I thought that was my career. I was willing and wanted to stay in the committee in San Francisco for the rest of my life. I mean, you get up on stage and make people laugh, you get paid, you're somebody in this, you're kind of a medium fish in a kind of a medium large city. People knew me, it was great. I had a girlfriend. It was wonderful. And then all of a sudden the show closed. Everybody wanted to go down to L.A. to be movie actors. And I thought they weren't movie actors. I said face actors. They're face actors. They only want close-ups. And I just put that down. I want to be.
Did the committee make a movie? I think they did make a movie, if I recall.
I did, yeah.
Okay.
Well, it was a short called The Creditors, right?
Ah, yes, that was it. That was it.
They asked me, I wanted to make a movie. I wanted to make movies. And so finally, Alan gave me, as the committee is a producer, he gave me a couple of $100. I don't know how much. Enough to make a film short. But it was a great idea. we came up with a great idea, and I said I would like to write it and do it. The committee came up with the idea of just a film shorts of credits called The Creditor. And I said, right. I can write that. That is cool. I'm going to do it. So he gave me some money. I don't know who was with me, who was a cinematographer and stuff like that. But it wasn't really enough money to actually hire a cinematographer or, a sound guy. So we made it. We made the movie. It was 10 minutes, but we couldn't edit it. We ran out of money just shooting it. And so I guess it wasn't much money. But what it was, we had to do a lot of research, finding credits and free film clips and stuff. It was a collage, and so we had to break.
It's become iconic. It's like
it's in the Library of Congress. It's in the Library of Congress. Yeah, it's cool. But we had to break into various. We had friends who was an advertising agency, who owned an advertising agency. So I knew one of the guys who worked there, a cartoonist. So he gave me a key to the place. So we would use the key to break in around 2 a.m. and use all their editing equipment to edit the Predators. I mean, hey, it's called making movies. That's what it's called. It's called making movies. Any way you can get that thing done. So that's what we did. So we didn't break anything, and he was always with us. But we from 2 till about 6 or 7, and so then we did that. And then we opened up a theater, the Orange Theater, and we were doing plays. I wrote a play called The Fool's Play. We did that. Basically the committee, not that I planned it, but it turned out, because I was there full time and I would take off time to go do stand-up, because now I had a home base. I felt really confident, so it didn't matter if people booed me. I just boomed back or whatever. But I had a gig. Right. I was in the committee, hell with you people. So, now, but I was. Tell me something about
improv. How much of it is what they call planned spontaneity, and
all of it.
How much? All of it. On some level, it is planned, or at least outlined.
No, I know what you're talking about, and you can call it planned, but there is a method to it. There is a process whereby, if both people understand the overriding process, you're going to get really funny scenes. Actors use it, dramatic actors use it for other purposes, and the rules change a little to get the dramatic feeling. But for the relationships and the comedy, there's a process. The process, basically, it's very simple, but you have to understand. But to be able to do it on stage in front of an audience who have paid money and want to get laughs, and there's a lot of pressure if you don't know how to do it, or if you're not used to it. Basically, it's listening. You got to really listen. Don't plot. No, it's almost what do you call it? Anti-logical. Anti whatever that word is. You can't plan ahead. You can't plot. Because the other person doesn't know the plot that's in your head. They only hear what you're saying. They don't know where you want to go, So you have to go where the scene is going. So both of you have to listen to both of yourselves and the scene. It's just a lot of listening, man, and that takes concentration. So that's why you rehearse. But when you get up on stage, all you have is your who, your what, your where. That's it. Who am I? Where are we? And what are we doing? That's the plotting, those 3 words. There's your plot, there's your plan, there's your whole thing. And as long as you got those 3 things in mind, and you use space objects, and everything relates to where you are. You know, you got an egg. You pretend you have it. It's all pretending. It's not acting. It's pretending. You pretend you're holding an egg. You know, there's a little space between your thumb and your first finger there.
Right?
No, and you go. That's it. And there you go. Or there you don't, because you got to rehearse a lot with the people who you're with. It's kind of a marriage of minds is what you're going for, you know, and trust.
Okay.
But
what would you tell a young person or even, young at heart person that wants to do comedy? What would you advise, or if not, advise them not to do comedy at all?
Are you funny? That's the first question I would ask. Have you ever made anybody laugh? Have you ever told a joke well? I mean, are you funny? Do you know it's funny? What do you laugh at? You know, I would ask a lot of questions before, because here's one thing you can't teach. You can't teach comic timing. That's I don't know. Or I guess you can't teach a Homo sapien timing. I mean, you're either born with timing. You got to know how to move one leg in front of your right. So you got that really good comic timing. And if you got that, then you can be a comedian. It may take you a long time. I have perfect comic timing, but when I started, I had nothing else. I had no sense. I had no ethics. I had no desire. I didn't want to do anything, but I could make people laugh. You know, one-to-one, just, hanging out. I was the funny guy in the group. I didn't plan it. I didn't practice it. I just could and I told jokes. I collected jokes when I was so I was into it a priori. You know, it's like, can you teach somebody to be a brain surgeon? Well, yeah, man, but you gotta have to wanna. Come on, Right. So I would have to know that.
Who made you laugh in your family, and which
Nobody.
of your parents
my
gave
family
you permission?
had no sense of humor. I come from a very right-wing, conservative, Jewish, Orthodox family, although they weren't Orthodox, but they made me be Orthodox. I had to go to yeshiva. They didn't go to yeshiva, my parents. I had to.
Wow.
I had to be bar mitzvahed in Yiddish. I mean,
I was too, as a matter of fact. We were not an Orthodox or praying family, but I gave a speech in Yiddish for my bar mitzvah and had to learn Yiddish.
I had to just do it by reading, Hebrew, by reading Hebrew. So I didn't understand anything. I didn't know what I was saying. It was all by vowels and memorizations. I mean, it was totally useless. I mean, not only that, it was an Orthodox yeshiva on Saturday, and you can't do it. You can't even use a key on Saturday. So my parents, we all put on yarmulkes and drove a block away from
no one can see you using a car.
Yeah, right. And walked.
Well, I mean, that pretty much, you said you talked about religion. That pretty much sums up the hypocrisy of religion right there.
Period. Religion.
Yeah.
I mean, if you want to believe in something, go believe in it. But to actually codify it and build a building for it, come on.
And
it just makes
for us as a country not to tax all religion, which would make us able to.
Well, that's
political.
I'm not into politics.
Yeah.
I'm not arguing, and you probably have a good point. It's not anything I would go. I just am against religion. That's it.
Right.
So if you get
organized
religion, you don't have to tax anybody. Well, organized religion. How can you have a religion if it's not organized? I mean, that's the whole point of religion. Let's get all these people. Oh, well, that's fine. That's not a religion. That's between you and whoever, or whatever.
Makes it a little more pure.
We could spend a couple hours on this, really.
Right.
That's why I back away.
let's continue with comedy. You're more of a writer than anything else. I mean, everything...
An assumption that will prove to be horribly wrong. I never wrote anything the entire time I was a stand-up comedian, ever. I didn't know how to write comedy. I didn't know how to write. I have very serious ADHD, so I guess I should have put that out there. I have serious... So when I was a kid, I read a lot. But somehow around 16 or 17, either it took over or I became aware of it. But so thank God my parents were. They were. I guess they try to impress people also. So we lived in a house, second floor. But the living room was filled with Encyclopedia Britannicas, the entire thing, and an entire set of the classic works. All the bindings are the same color. Scaramouche, and just all.
There was gold leaf trim on the binding.
Yeah, and I don't know, a whole shelf of them. And so there was no television. Well, kind of, sort of, but not anything that I was a reader. That's what I kind of was. And my parents did tell me stories, so I read all those things. So I got all that writing into me at least before the ADHD really kind of took over. So I find it very, very difficult to read now. Well, from about 16 or 17 on. I just, so that's why I guess I started to rely on comedy. It was like football or sports. It's something you can always join a gang with. A group with. If you're a funny guy, you don't have to know anything. You have to you just make them laugh. So that was my handle.
Who made you laugh?
Got all that stuff.
Early on, who made you laugh?
Milton Berle. No, he didn't make me laugh. By the time I was opening for Woody Allen, or even was introduced to him, I was judgmental about other comedians. He's not funny. I get that joke. Oh, I know how it's going to end. I was that attitude. Because I was a professional now. I was just out of the Monday night open mics. Milton Berle, Milton Berle, Lenny Bruce, finally, after a while, somebody, had to say, no, man, this guy's funny. You listen to him. And I thought, holy cow, he's amazing. But the other guy is Myron Cohen. You must
Myron Cohen, New York.
Yeah.
Am I right? That's it.
Yeah. Myron Cohen was the best. Myron Cohen was better than them all, because what he did was he took jokes and he made them into stories so that you could relate. Instead of saying, a gorilla walked into a bar, he would say, my brother-in-law was in this bar, and all of a sudden, he made it personal, and then and he expanded it. And it was about his relatives. But they were jokes, man. They were just, man walks into a bar. And that's where the reality of Lenny Bruce came from. This is what I did today. And that's what Myron Cohen, only it was a joke, but he told it like it happened to him today or last week or to his wife, So those are, and then Milton Berle was just crazy, on black and white TV. He was just, with that powder puff and hitting people in the face, custard pies and stuff, all that stuff.
Yeah. How about Sid Caesar and his writing?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. I mean, Sid Caesar, Imogene Coca, your show shows. But I'm kind of eclectic because my heroes weren't always funny people. I mean, like Picasso. Picasso because of his paintings, but no, because of his life and his attitude. Picasso had Lenny Bruce's attitude. I mean, Bob
Really?
Dylan. I mean, you know, these artists who were their own people, you know, those made me laugh. And I find that, and musicians, they made me laugh. Musicians have probably, as a group, the best senses of humor of any group. Musicians.
They're
really.
a great audience
I don't know what.
for comedians. They're a great audience.
Well, they're a great
I'll tell you
audience.
that.
Yeah, they're a great audience, but because they get it, but they make me laugh too. But they also get, I don't know why. I mean, but you see, that's what happened to me. Yeah, I'm being judgmental now. I'm saying, hey, he's funny and kind, you know. But the one thing I learned when living in New York, when I moved to New York with my roommate while I was doing Monday night stand-up, was Carl Gottlieb. He wrote Jaws. So he was we went through college together. So he's my best friend. We were roommates in Greenwich Village. So he's a very eclectic guy. I mean, he can talk about anything. He knows. He's like Wikipedia, only with good facts. And so my aim wasn't just anybody who had really cool content. The thing about Lenny Bruce, because he was funny, but he was also, he had like laser vision or something. I don't know. He just saw things in a weird way, a paradigm. I don't know. The way he looked at things was what drew me to him. The fact that he made me laugh. So I was interested in a lot of things. We're talking about my writing. My writing started to get serious eventually. But I would get up on the stage and talk about my day. Just like you're interviewing me now. I would interview myself on the stage. I just came from the coffee shop. There was a guy down there, and blop, and boom, I was off on that. How to order coffee, you know, what happens if you're drunk or high and picked up by the police, and then you start getting into that stuff. So, yeah,
right.
I don't know.
Larry, what's the writing process like for you? Do you make an appointment with yourself to write for X number of hours? Or do you, when you think of something funny, do you write it down and then keep books? I base my writing on what I know, really, and I find that even this is really weird because we talk about Sabatini. Scaramouche is one of my favorite characters. Not my favorite book, but there was a character named Scaramouche in the book called Scaramouche by Raphael Sabatini. And he was just, and the opening line, I know, he had a line in it. I don't know if it's the opening line. He was born with a sense of, my memory is going, but he was born with a sense that the world was mad, and he was, that I know is he was born with a sense the world was mad. That was, and then there's another half of it about himself being crazy. And that was Sabatini's description of Scaramouche, the character. He was a lawyer. It was like Batman. He was a lawyer, but he had this incredible sense of mockery, of satire. The character Scaramouche. He would make a jest of everything, but he was like Batman in that he could duel and do all this other stuff. And I just loved that character, and I loved what Raphael Sabatini said about him, that he was born with a sense the world was mad. And that's really where I'm coming from. I mean, it is. It's mad and stupid. I mean, Homo sapiens. But I make it funny. Hey,
you know,
comedy
all you
is
do
just
is laugh.
pointing out the absurdity of it all. You just have to
exactly.
hold the mirror to the audience.
Yeah. So you know, that's how I look at the world. That's how Lenny did. That's how Picasso did. That's, you know, that's how a lot of comedians do. Louis C.K., you know, despite all these misgivings and weird outs,
Mm-hmm.
He looked, it's the paradigm. How do they look at the world? They look at it like it's, what are you, crazy? What are you, What
do you think of Larry David and his humor?
He's a genius. He's a genius.
Oh, good. I'm glad. He's one of my real heroes. I could watch not only Seinfeld, but Curb Your Enthusiasm. I could watch clips from that on YouTube all day long. You were in Seinfeld.
Yeah, so I got to work with him. I got to work with Seinfeld. I got to work with Larry David. Yeah, but he's crazy, man. Larry David is nuts. And so am I. And if you're funny, you got to be. I mean, it's you got to be, but, I mean, I'm normal outside. I just went to the drugstore, went shopping. Everybody, I'm normal, but I'm nuts, man. And I think that helps. That helps. It's a wry eye,
Well, it sounds like you have a good, healthy disrespect for the status quo.
Oh yeah. But it started because the status quo had no respect for me. I mean, and that started with my parents, man. They wanted a doctor or a lawyer. That's what they wanted. So that
every Jewish parent does, of course.
Yes, and
just like Catholics want a priest.
Yeah.
Just like Catholic parents want a priest. And on some level, you're disappointing your parents. He would have been a doctor if only this, if he had a 20 points more IQ, in my case.
Yeah, so that's a guilt trip, and so I make fun of that. That's what I make fun of, a guilt trip. So I have a character who called Barnum Justice, and he's a homeless guy that I make movies, little film shorts about. And yeah, he has a sense of being. He uses guilt as a positive, or back at. He says, "I'm a panhandler. My partner is the church. He's a panhandler, and he washes windows and stuff like that. My partner is the. My partner is the church. My silent partner is the church. My job, their job is to instill guilt, and my job is to leverage it. So that's all I got to say about guilt. Well, it's nice, but it makes a point, and sometimes people laugh at it. So that's all I do. I don't try to, use my anger. I try to turn my anger into comedy. That's about it. Or nobody would talk to me.
Larry, I'm going to ask you one final question first I want to invite you back and tell you that you're terrific, and I'm honored to have you. But
by the way, before you end, I got to just say one thing, and that is, if you are a comedian, if you are funny at all, you're angry, and that's a great way to get it out. But you can't be a really funny person without being angry.
I am angry. I
cool.
don't know how anybody could live in this life and not be angry.
But you got to be funny. You can't be just angry. Angry is not the answer. Funny is the answer.
Right.
I mean, you can be satirical, get a little of the anger in there, put a little point on it. But no, you can't be angry. It's not outside, but you can be funny.
Right. All right. Larry, what would you like if you had a choice, because sometimes these things are done after our demise, what would you like written on your tombstone?
I tried, but I didn't get it.
Okay.
Yeah, that's about all I can come up with. I mean, there's nothing, something funny, something pithy. Maybe on my deathbed I'll find something like that. It just, I don't know. I don't know.
Yeah. Hey, I hope you have another 20 years to think about it. How about that?
Thank you.
Or as long as you really want. How about that, too?
Well, 30 or 40 would be, be kind of cool. I'm just getting started, actually. Yeah.
Right. Isn't it a pity after all we learn in with life's lessons that when we really get somewhat good at it, mortality comes in?
Well, that's the only. Wow, man, that's amazing. That is the end. I just here, I'll even read it to you. You ever notice how youth is always right? Yeah, you notice how young people are right, and the younger you are, the righter you are, and the older you are, the wronger you are, and you keep getting older and wronger and older and wronger, till finally you become a Republican, and by then you're 70 years old, and all of a sudden you're wise, and then you die. I could never figure that out.
Yeah.
Okay, that's it.
And if that doesn't make you angry on some level, you can't do comedy.
Yeah, I guess. All right,
Larry.
I just can talk from my point of view. That's all, not from anybody else's.
That's all any of us can do. You're terrific. Please come back and remember,
anytime, man.
You always have a place to be comfortably zoned with the Zig Zag Man. And if you get out to Alameda, you get up to Northern California, you always have a place to hang and eat and sleep, and we'll have some lunch.
Ralph, thank you very much. Thank you.
Thank you, Larry. Be good. Thank you, everybody, for listening. I will be back before you know it. Adios, everybody. The proceeding was a Comfortably Zoned Radio Network production. Thank you for listening.